All right. Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 14th. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Warren Town Council. I am Vice President Carrie Cronin. Our President, Joseph DePasquale, had some surgery today. He came through it flying colors. The next 48 hours will be critical in seeing him recover and back to his best self. So we will all be thinking about him. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
You could all stay standing. We'd like to have a moment of silence for the passing of President Jimmy Carter, who apparently came through Warren a number of years ago, shook the hands of 2 council members, and was a truly good human. Thank you. You can be seated. This evening, we start with a public hearing. It's in regard to the 25-26 budget. So the first item is discussion and action regarding the start time, which will be 6 p.m. given the council's approval for the budget meeting and public hearings. The dates as chosen by our town clerk will be Wednesdays, March 19th and 26th. And as they have now been for a number of years, these are public meetings, and we really do encourage public engagement, public participation, public action in helping us develop a budget that is meaningful and livable for us all. So you are all welcome to attend. I am looking for a motion to accept the time and the dates.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And second is discussion and a request to solicit comments from residents related to goals and objectives for fiscal year 25-26. I will begin by reading into the record a letter we received from a citizen, and then ask if anybody has something they'd like to add or something they'd like to say about the way we proceed with the budget. So this reads, Dear Town Council members and Town Manager Sullivan, please consider these as official public comment regarding the goals and objectives for fiscal year 25-26. A priority goal for our town should be to assist those who are being hurt the most by the lack of actually affordable and whose safety is being compromised by lack of enforcement of ADA regulations on our town sidewalks. Trees need to be pruned or cut down before they injure somebody, especially on the town common, and dangerous traffic issues to be more rigorously policed. There should be money in the budget for enforcement of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Our sidewalks are there's a little cutoff here. I'm not sure what that word is. Our sidewalks are covered over by outdoor cafe seating and sandwich board signs that obstruct accessibility for people in wheelchairs using canes or pushing baby carriages. I apologize. It's a little cut off. So please correct me if I'm missing words. This danger is further enhanced by the presence of electric bicycles on our sidewalks. Very true. The downtown sidewalks are legally obligated to be as accessible to wheelchairs through all seasons. When there is ice, not all of the shopkeepers on Main, Water, Child, and Market Street are keeping up with the snow and ice removal. It is hazardous situations. It is a hazardous situation for people with mobility issues. When I first moved to town in 1993, the town had a workforce for sidewalks and crosswalks. Please restore that service. These situations all pose danger to our local citizens, and there's a risk of injury when obstructions are allowed to exist for the sake of commerce and tourist comfort. Please restore the money that had been allocated for affordable housing repair or affordable housing repair grants to help low-income owners' properties and thereby their tenants who are financially unable to comply with changes made to the lead paint abatement, I think. We took away exemptions for owner-occupied housing. Our town is not on the priority list for aid from the state yet. The expectation of full compliance with the unfunded mandate. As well-intentioned as the law may be, it has resulted in properties being on the market by senior and low-income citizens. Many of those properties were bought by people who are now renting them out for short-term housing, which is also contributing to the lack of affordable long-term housing. Thank you for your attention to these concerns and for your efforts on behalf of our town. Sincerely, Joyce Katzberg. At this time, I welcome anybody to come up and express any expectations, concerns, anything in regard to the budget conversation. Hearing none, I would like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty, moving on. Now we have regular public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to come forward and make a public comment? I will remind that we are unable to take action, but we welcome your statement.
Jenny Flanagan, 46 Washington Street. I'm also the treasurer of the Warren Land Trust. Our annual meeting is next Tuesday at the historic Warren Armory at 7 p.m. You should have gotten a newsletter. Yep, right there. There's a couple of those downstairs. If folks aren't on our mailing list, go to our website, warrenltc.org, and we will get you going with getting on a newsletter. And all are welcome to our annual meeting. The speaker with Keith Morton, who is a resident town of Warren, foreign professor at Providence College. He'll be speaking on rewilding, which is an effort to take lands formerly used by humans and bring them back to a wild state, bringing nature back to its full flourishing form. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has something they'd like to tell us about? Okay, hearing none. Next, we're moving on to recognition. If the family members from Amarals would like to meet me at the podium. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to pivot this around. Maybe have you come to right and left and flank. We have two things to present here. Oh. Wow, you asked. Remember you asked. Sincere. So this is squeeze in. Oh, this is wonderful. This is just wonderful. This is So first, the town of Warren would just like to present this recognition plaque presented to Amaral, celebrating 40 years in business, 1984 to 2024 by the town of Warren. This is from President Joseph D. Pasquale, myself, John Hanley, councilman, Derek Trombley, and Lou Rigo, council people. This is for the Amaral family. It is such an honor and such a symbol of what Warren is to have businesses like yours, 40 years, family run, serving the community, and just making Warren what it is. And you are such leaders in what we have come to sort of be as a destination for for food and all of those things. You were here first, doing it first, and we couldn't be more proud to have you in the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, to the Emerald family, the regrets of Rep. Speakman and Knight. They had a command performance this evening with the governor's swearing in, or state of the whatever is happening tonight. So they wanted to be here instead. I am true when I say that. So on behalf of Reps. Knight and Speakman, I present the citation from the Rhode Island House of Representatives congratulating you on 40 years in business, providing diners in Warren, the East Bay, and the state of Rhode Island and beyond with authentic, delicious, locally sourced food, and being an important part of Warren's vibrant small business community. And thanks from June and Jason, and from Speaker Shikarchi as well. We always got to throw his name in there. So a cool official citation. So maybe you hold this and then everybody can get their pictures and yay.
Terry. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Yeah. I just want to say for the past 30 years, I've been involved in Rotary, I've been involved in Armory, and so we do a lot of fundraising. You're never, ever going to go to an event where you won't see a gift certificate from these two guys. They are amazing. They are givers, and they do it from their heart. And it seems like every time I walk in, it's, Lou, what do you need? I don't need anything anymore. But I really want to thank you. And I know you do it from your heart, but they're amazing. And thank you for that.
Thank you. Good.
All right. We'll give you this and this, and we actually, there's a sleeve for the plaque to keep that safe on the way home. Let me just do that for you. Very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you in 10 years. So, yeah.
All righty, next we have a presentation with discussion and action with the town of Warren with the wastewater treatment operator H2O and Sinagro. So if they would come forward to do what you're going to do and say what you're going to say.
Good evening, Madam Vice President. As you know, you may be aware, we had this discussion several months ago that there was going to be a change with our disposal of sludge from going to Woonsocket. And I've had some conversation with our operator of the wastewater treatment plant, H2O, and Sinagro, and we want to be able to bring this to the forefront to make you aware of the situation and what some of our options might be as we go forward. And that's one of the reasons why for this presentation tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to who's going to start, Eric or?
I can start.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Jefferson Tallman with H2O Innovation. We created a little note for everyone. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it quick. The critical nature of this is that our contract, your contract with Sinagro that currently takes care of your sludge, that ends June 30th, and that will not be renewed. The city of Woonsocket no longer wants to take sludge from outside communities. And so we put together this little memo. Oh,
I'm from
sorry.
Sinagro. My name is Pat Rompusky. The city of Woonsocket issued a resolution to end the acceptance of liquid sludge. And although your contract will expire on June 30th, there is the possibility of an extension as a space available option. That said, it's only a matter of time before we will not be able to accept the liquid sludge. And our conversations were to encourage H2O and the town to discuss options with Veolia Cranston as soon as possible, so that capacity can be given to the town. Woonsocket will still continue to burn sludge, but it will be dewatered sludge. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you.
And currently your process does not dewater sludge. It only produces liquid sludge at about 5% solid. So you currently haul liquid sludge to Woonsocket. And option one, we actually reached out on Pat's suggestion to Earl at Cranston, and they have capacity for your sludge. It is a limited opportunity because they are going to fill up their allocation as soon as they can, but they're holding a spot for the volume that Warren produces. So it's kind of our recommendation that that would be the direction you head because of the short-term length of your contract with Synagro at this point. And then the other options that are, you know, further down the road for consideration and will take budgetary and engineering and planning would be going back to dewatering on site and being kind of independent and self-reliant on taking care of your own sludge and then disposing of it at a landfill or hauling it dry to an incinerating facility. So one of, I guess, the questions that we have is what kind of procurement process would you require if we were to go to another vendor? You know, obviously going out to bid is very difficult because there's not a lot of options. But, you know, it could be sole sourced.
The
Okay.
solicitor will answer that question. Well, it's my understanding that there's only one vendor, and that's the city of Cranston.
At this point.
So it's a sole source procurement. And that means, and this is an emergency basis. So that's the procurement process here. The town manager has to give you a memo to that effect. But I think this can be done fairly quickly because you're only dealing with one vendor that can take this. If there were more, then it'd be a different procedure. This is under 45-55-8 for the general laws.
Very, can I ask a question?
Are you finished?
Well, the last thing I would say is that we currently are unable to secure a price from Cranston for disposal because if we're going out to bid, they didn't want to divulge a price. And if it's going to be sole source, then we can negotiate.
Okay.
So that's, I think,
Alright.
pretty much everything else. You know, if there's questions within this letter that you have, I mean, more than happy to, you know, talk.
Okay, we have questions
So-
from the council.
And that was my question as far as the costs on the different options. The cost of the dryer would be one of them. It seems like the dryer is probably the best option. That way we wouldn't have to deal with it in the future. But having the cost of that dryer, do you have any idea what it would cost for a dryer?
No, because again, if you were to start engineering today, you know, we might not be buying anything for 5 years. The price today versus 5 years from now, I'm not going to speculate. 5 years ago to today, you know, prices went crazy. So it would be really hard to speculate. I mean, I would say you're in the less than $5 million range.
Oh, that's good to know.
You know, I'm just,
And is this dryer option, is this something that, because other communities are going to run into the same problem,
Mhm.
right? Is that something that could be shared,
Regionalized.
regionalized?
so we actually had a conversation with a community that's talking about possibly doing a regional venture. And then it becomes who wants to house it? You know, is it not in my backyard? Is
Yeah.
it, or do you want to have it in? I personally don't think your location could hold a regional collection and disposal site for a dryer. I mean, you know, your footprint isn't that large. And with the proximity to the waterway,
Just the Otis alone would be a huge impact to that neighborhood.
Yeah, Councilman
My
Hanley?
question is, because this is actually gonna happen in the middle of a budget cycle. Do we have any idea how much more this is gonna, what are we gonna exceed our allotment for that roughly? Any idea? Any guesses?
No idea. As we said, we tried to get an idea from Cranston what it might cost, and I even asked, are there similar cities or towns that like us, so we could kind of gauge what they're charging, and they didn't want to say anything about it, so they were holding their cards to their vest, pretty close. But I would say though, if we look at it, it's not as far as going to Woonsocket as far as transportation. So there may be some savings there,
On the
but
transport.
yeah.
Councilman Trombley?
Thank you. So my first question is, what is the current cost per year under the current contract?
252.
It can be a rough estimate. It doesn't have to be exact.
Yeah, it's about $252,000 for the entire year. And it varies per week or month, depending on how much is hauled.
What is the price per pound then, or would it be dry tons? How is it calculated?
Is it? Okay.
About 700 per ton. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
About 700 per ton. And then my question is, for how long is the contract? What is the length of a typical contract of this character? Is it for a year? Is it for 5 years? What is this average length?
Three. But I
Generally
would
3.
Say, given the volatile nature of the market and the lack of capacity in the Northeast,
Mm-hmm.
if Cranston is willing to give you a longer term, I would urge you to take it.
Thank you for your advice. Those are my questions. Thank you, Council President.
I just want to
Mr.
say
Tallman?
the other, as Jefferson said, the city is actually NBC, Narragansett Bay Commission. They are looking to create a dryer system there and accept sludge and burn it there, but they are just in the conceptual stages of it, and it's the opinion of the experts behind me that it wouldn't be up and running before Woonsocket says, you can't come here anymore, so.
Okay, so we have some discussion to have here as far as what direction we want to go, or if we're even ready to make such a decision
Well,
this evening.
I'm leaning towards instructing the town manager to proceed with option one, to at least get that secured, that contract.
Mhm.
And then possibly, I don't know who, to research 2, 3, and 4 and come back to us with some estimated costs. Would we assign, who would we assign that to? The manager, and also for the manager to investigate options 2, 3, and 4 and come back with some ideas on the cost, so we would know, what our long-term goal could be. That's
Mhm.
the way I'm leaning.
Seems to cover all the bases.
Is there any
It's pretty
grants
good.
available for these type of situation we're in?
It's like general operating.
It might be for building the dryer and
Yeah.
stuff, but not for just hauling it. I doubt that.
Did you make them?
No, I'm still discussing. if you want.
Yeah, do you have anything to add?
I think Councilman Hanley put it very succinctly. I think there's only one realistic feasible option at this time, which is option 1. The other 3 would take a longer time period to implement, longer than the length of the current contract. So I would happily support a motion to that effect and encourage the town manager to reach out to on items 2, 3, and 4, as he said.
Can we turn that item into a motion?
Yeah, and have some report back next
Just
month.
one thing, though,
Yep.
because it says price to be determined. Do we think it is going to be a big swing in that price, or is it going to be something that we'll be able to handle? Scares me when I hear price to be determined.
So I can't speak on behalf of Veolia, but what I explained to Brian was, there's a different type of incinerator. It's a multiple hearth incinerator. Woonsocket is a fluid bed. It's much larger and it's much more expensive to run. I suspect that you will actually save money once you've negotiated a contract with Veolia. Because of the nature of the capacity in the Northeast, I had spoken to Dave Comega, because I've known him for years, and suggested that he reach out to Earl as quickly as possible to move this along, because there are only so many seats at these tables, and if you don't secure it as quickly as possible, by June 30th, you're still looking, you could find yourself without a seat somewhere. And I would just encourage you to start discussions as a sole source provider and negotiate a contract. It would be in your best interest.
Unfortunately, as public body, we can't hold our cards close to our vest, and we, other than this, we really are out of options.
It's a difficult situation.
So,
And one thing I might add is that we have done all the legwork. Eric has taken all the tests, provided all the results to Cranston. So they know that the sludge is acceptable to their facility. So really, this is a matter of getting a decision from you folks to move forward.
Madam President, may I make a motion?
Yep.
I think Tony, correct, you can correct it as I go. But I think I'd like to make a motion to permit the town manager to enter into negotiations with the city of Cranston for the disposal of the sludge. And report back to the council by the next meeting regarding the status of that contract.
It's actually the Cranston facility is being operated by Veolia.
Okay.
One of these companies.
Thank you.
And perhaps
EOLIA.
EOLIA.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing is, because I think this is a pressing matter, if the manager gets this done before your February meeting, perhaps have a special meeting.
Okay. And would you add to that motion to look into numbers 2, 3, and 4 as backup plans?
I will make that motion. I will make that amendment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Okay, next, we have a reappointment of William F. Gosselin to the Bristol County Water Authority Board of Directors. It's a 3-year term. I believe Mr. Gosselin has expressed his desire to remain on the board.
I'll make a motion, we reappoint William Goslin to the Water Authority.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we continue on to interviews. We have, we continue to have a vacancy as in the Associate Municipal Court Judge position. It's a 1-year term. We have 2 board positions available and 1 alternate position available on the Economic Development Board. We have 1 alternate position available on the Juvenile Hearing Board. So, anybody out there is interested in getting more involved in the town, who has the credentials to serve, please come forward.
Carrie, can I ask a question along the line of these boards here?
You may.
Some of these boards, 13 members, 9 members, is there a way of us reducing the number of people on these boards? It seems kind of excessive to get that many people.
Look to the February schedule. I've already added the reduction on the EDB, because I think at the time that that board was created, it made sense to have it that size.
We kept adding because
Yeah,
we
we
had
kept-
so many people interested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now we're at a place where it's really not sustainable or attainable. So we will look to reduce the size of that in the February meeting. Next, we have the planning board. We have 1 position available. We have 3 applicants. 2 of them are alternates, and 1 of them is a new applicant. So if we are going in order, we would like to first hear from Richard Matten, who is currently an alternate. Mr. Matten, come forward, please. Good
Hello.
evening.
My name is Richard Matten, 11 Kennecut Avenue in Warren. I've been on the planning board now as an alternate for about 6 months. Made every meeting. Actually had a seat on the board for just about all 6 months. Because of absences or whatever.
Right.
Always been prepared, and I'm ready to do so as a regular serving member.
Great, good to know. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, Mr. Matt, what do you think the two greatest issues that Warren is facing right now from a planning board perspective?
Excuse me?
What are the two greatest issues that the town of Warren is facing?
Want to be affordable housing. And the lack of enforcement of zoning issues.
Any questions from council? Great. Thank you so much for your willingness to step up to a
Thank
full
you.
position. Next in line would be Timothy Lind White. Please come forward. Good evening.
Members of the council,
Why would you like to be on the planning board and what would you bring to it?
I believe that growth is inevitable in any city or town. And it's important that that growth fit the town and fit the needs of the people that live in the town and be responsible. And the planning board is key in making that happen. So,
I'm
Mr.
gonna ask the
Rigo?
same question.
sure.
What are the two greatest issues that we're facing in town of Warren?
Yeah, it's hard to pick two, but I would go with, as the previous gentleman said, affordable housing is right up there at the forefront, as well as how to best handle comprehensive permits and how to negotiate those and best mold these types of projects to blend with the community a little better, and how to keep the will of the people in mind. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Trombley?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. White. I had one quick question, which was, there are currently two alternates, who've already served on the board. If you were not to be appointed to the planning board tonight, would you like to apply for one of those alternate positions if it were to become available?
oh, sure. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Anthony, if we appoint one of the alternates tonight, do we have to advertise again for the alternate, or can we make both appointments tonight? We have to advertise again? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. White. And finally, Blake James Costa, please come forward. Good evening.
How are we doing?
Good, how
Good.
are you?
Doing well, doing well.
So you're currently an alternate and you
Correct.
would like a full-time position. What have you, why you over the others?
I think it's experience and perspective I bring to the board. 7 years ago, I started a business, built it from nothing to a $50 million business with 200 employees across the East Coast. That's required me to sit in front of boards like this with town councils, zoning boards, planning boards, present and be a good neighbor and work with towns to bring these projects to life. So I have extensive experience in that. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work. I know how to be efficient. And I understand budgets. In this town, I know our budget's important. I think there's synergy amongst all the departments to make sure we meet our goals for people of Warren, whether it's making sure projects come into this town and making sure we adhere to our requirements coming down from the state. As you're going to ask me about, one of the troubles is meeting our affordable housing requirements with the state. So if I can bring anything, it's just perspective and experience.
Is there a second? I asked if there was two.
Second, I would say, I was thinking about this in the back. I think it's just the future of Warren. I hear a lot about the budget, what's next year, what we're doing next year. It's what are we doing in 10 years? What are we doing in 5 years in this town? My kids are 2 and 4. So, I think where we need to focus is on the longer term and on, where are we going to be in 10 years? What's the problem tomorrow? Let's prioritize that and fix it But then as a town, as a board, as everyone, even you as council members, what are we doing in 10 years?
Mr. Trombley?
Thank you.
Thank you. Just one quick question, which is, you've been on the board. Have you been in regular attendance at meetings? Have you found that to be any issue at all?
I've been in regular attendance, with businesses, we all travel for business as a volunteer opportunity. So I'm in regular attendance. I follow the meetings. Rich was ahead of me and the alternates, so he tends to sit on the boards when they're absent, but I try to participate where I can and help out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, is that it? Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I would say thank you to all three applicants. It's encouraging to know that the alternates are eager to continue on the board, and it's nice to have qualified people applying. So regardless of who is appointed tonight to that full-time position, we hope that the other two will consider re-engaging in some way. So with that, do we have a motion for the full-time position?
Sure, I make a motion for Blake James Costa.
Louis, could you put in the same motion and advertise for the associate for next month,
Sure.
or the alternate for next month? Take care of
Sure,
it all
what he
in one
just
shot.
said.
Yeah. I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion to appoint Blake James Costa to the full position on the planning board and to additionally advertise for the vacancy in the alternates position. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. We will continue with the vacancies. There is one position available on the Recreation Board. There are 3 positions available on the 250th Commission. And there is a position available on the Tax Board of Assessment and Review. Now, all 3 of these, as well, the business is happening as usual. So it's not like these boards are waiting for full membership to happen. They are working, they are doing the work of the town and need a little more support. So we need a motion to advertise for all of those vacancies.
If I might make an amendment to that
You may.
suggestion. First, I just want to echo your sentiments. It's definitely a great idea for folks, if you're interested, to get out there, attend a few of these meetings to see if you'll be a good fit. What I would like to do is make a motion to re-advertise all except for the Economic Development Board because of discussion and action that we anticipate on making at the February meeting. So if I may make that motion, I would like to.
Appreciate that. Do we have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have 2 interviews for the vacancy of our tree warden. The first applicant is Regina Costa. If she would like to come forward and tell us about yourself and what you think you would bring to the position of tree warden in Warren, Rhode Island.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm just a little nervous, so
It's
don't
okay.
mind me.
Okay.
This is my first time doing this. I am a licensed Rhode Island arborist. I am certified through the International Society of Arboriculture and also have my TRAC qualification, which is a tree risk assessment qualification. I saw that you are looking for a tree warden to do master tree management plan, and that is something that I'm very interested in. Working with tree inventories, coming up with a 5-year, 10-year plan, whatever you're interested in, of tracking trees, preservation, and investing in the canopy. My background is I've worked in the town of Warren previously for PJ Keating Company doing paving. I've run paving crews. My background is also mechanical engineering, and I have an MBA. I'm a great communicator, and I'm looking to grow myself. So that's really why I'm interested in the position.
Great. Any questions from the council?
I have a question. Wakefield, that's a heck of a ride.
Yes.
Job doesn't pay that much. It does, I believe you are required to meet with the tree commission. They meet once a month. Is it once a month the tree commission meets? Yeah. That, and then yeah, obviously it'd be just like if we have an issue with a tree, we'd have to give you a call. You don't have a problem coming all the way down here to handle that?
Well, what I just always say, is I work at the farmer's market a lot in Narragansett, and people from Chepachet will come. And my territory used to be the US and Canada for sales, so coming to Warren for an hour ride is nothing that is something I could not handle.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yes, I'm interested in that.
Great.
Yeah, that was actually my question. I even Googled it to see the distance. You're 57 minutes away, 44 miles, just so you know. Because that was a concern, only because, again, for the swiping you get
Of course.
and the availability, that was an issue. Thank
But
you.
I did travel quite a bit, and when I worked at PJ Keating, I was traveling all over New England doing paving of in Waltham and Fitchburg, and I don't mind driving. So thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second applicant is Matthew Largess. He's right here, Mr. Largess.
Hello,
Good to see you this evening.
my name is Matthew the Twig Largess, the voice of the forest. I've been working as the voice of the forest for over 50 years. I own Largess Forestry Incorporated. I started the day the space shuttle blew up, which will be the anniversary, January 28th, coming up, our first day in Newport. I've done quite a bit of work in Warren on trees and fell in love with this little town. I love New England. I'm a volunteer. I believe in giving back. I've been the tree warden in Central Falls as a volunteer for over 12 years, planted over 1,000 trees. We have the biggest elm tree in New England in the city. I planted a peace forest at the new high school that we are now moving because they put the high school where it was a floodplain. But I have a long way to go. I have been working in trees for years. I'm well known nationally. I travel. But I'm very interested. Whenever I see a vacancy for a tree warden, I go to try to fill it, at least for as much as I can. So I'm very interested in working in this town. I've been coming down to the waterfront. I've seen a big change where they have the restaurant thing, and Luther Blount was there. I knew him back in the day. I do a lot of work on Prudence Island and do a lot of work in Bristol. So I'm over this way quite a bit. So I'm very interested. Trees are cool and so are you. There's a lot of big trees in New England's villages. We are the greatest forest in the world. A lot of people don't realize that. They think of the redwoods in California, which are great. But our trees come back. Like New England's been cut over 2 or 3 times. Just look at all the forests in our state, which is over 50%. Okay, so where are the biggest trees? In the villages. I talked to the Public Works Director tonight. I met him, and he had to cut down a huge willow tree today. I did a survey in Warren all the way to the bridge in Bristol. I could not believe the size of these trees and the problems that they have with sidewalks lifting and things like that. But we have to realize trees are the most important thing. Why? I'm questioning you people.
They make oxygen.
Hmm?
They make oxygen.
There you go.
They use up 300 gallons of water.
Right.
I learned that the other day.
And how about climate? You're a waterfront town. What's the elevation of this town? 7 feet?
If that.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's things like that. But I'd love to work in this town. I really would. I hope I get the chance. And if not, I think she's a great choice too. So it's great to be here. I do love New England and Warren. So I live in a cabin in Patchogue State Forest on the Rhode Island border since the pandemic. So I also have a place in Jamestown, and my tree company is in North Kingstown. But I'm trying to get out of the tree company. It got so big, I want to sell it and just do consulting.
Maybe you can,
Well, we'll see how it goes.
okay.
But-
Any questions from the council?
North Kingston is pretty far too, but he kind of answered my question in his presentation, so.
Yeah,
I have no questions for this applicant.
all right.
Okay, what's the state tree of Rhode Island?
What is it?
I'm asking everybody here. What kind of maple?
Red maple.
Red maple. Okay.
We refer everything to our council, so.
Trees are cool. So are you.
Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you to both of the applicants and let the public and anybody who is aware know that the letter of support from the Tree Commission for our DPW director has been noted by the council, and we appreciate that vote of support for him. Mr. Wheeler has declined keeping his name in the race, given the quality and the caliper of our applicants. That was tree humor. Yeah. Anyways, so we are not considering him this evening. Do we have a motion to hire a tree warden?
Tough choice.
It is.
I'll make a motion to appoint Matthew Largarist.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Mr. Largess, you are now our tree warden. Ms. Costa, we appreciate your application and your willingness to come, and we will keep you on file.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank
You're
thank
very
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
All right. You'll be in touch with the clerk's office or the manager. Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have the acceptance of minutes. If members of the council have reviewed the minutes and don't find any issues, mistakes, or edits needed, I will entertain motions to accept both the regularly scheduled meeting and the executive session minutes from,
No, we have.
I think the solicitor wants to say something.
okay, he may.
One of your members spotted a typo in the executive session meeting minutes. That has to do with the time of adjournment. It shows up as 9:71, 9:70.
Okay, noted with
So
that
we'll
edit.
do these one at a time. I'll make a motion to approve the regular Warren Town Council meeting minutes for the 10th of December.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the executive session minutes as the adjournment time amended to what, 9:17?
9:70.
9:17 PM.
Is the motion supposed to be approve and file? Is that the proper terminology, Tony, or is it approve and up? Are we supposed to say file it? Approve and file, or just approve?
You can just say approve.
Or accept?
Was there a motion on the table?
Yeah, except the executive session with the change of the adjournment date to 9:17.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next, we have petitions. Did we have a ruling on P1, which is a Hope in Maine, which is generally in consent? If they're not here, that we can just go forward with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have P1, which is a request for a victualling license from Blue Birch Provisions LLC. Blue Birch Provisions is Patricia Pravat and Robert Renovar of 691 Main Street. That's a Hope in Maine business. Given if their application is in order, do we have a motion to approve their petition?
I make a motion, we approve Blue Birch Provisions for a vitrilling license located at 691 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And P2 is a request for a mobile food establishment known as an MFE permit from Le Petit Pouf, Rhode Island. Is Carlin Adler here? Come on down. Welcome. So as we do, we have you come before us, convince us that you are worthy of doing business here in town, and we will give you a mobile food establishment permit. So
Great.
tell us about your truck.
Great, thank you. So I'm actually a cart, but in Rhode Island, I'm considered a MFE because I have wheels. I do cotton candy and other treats like ice cones at events on my mobile cart. So help to make events a little bit sweeter. We'll be producing out of Hope in Maine. So that's why I'm here tonight. And very excited to be working with Hope in Maine and hope to have my petition approved.
Great. Any questions from the council?
I love cotton candy.
Oh, here we go. First
It's a
customer.
problem.
Do we have a motion?
Problem.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Luck.
very much.
Thank you.
You've been approved. We have correspondence, C1 through C11. Is there anything that any member of the council would like to pull for discussion?
You know, I do. And that's on the tree commission.
Yep,
Okay.
that's C11. Mr.
Uh,
Rego would like to
Yeah.
discuss the tree commission.
So, when I was on council 20 years ago, we established the tree commission. Over the years, I've been kind of disappointed because I've never really seen a lot of trees go up. When I read this report, I was really amazed that they put up 32 trees this year. So sometimes we don't think things are happening, but they actually are. So congratulations on that, Chuck. And what do we foresee for this year?
Good evening. Well, this year should be the best, one of the best years ever because we have the new Warren Tree Canopy Council. And they're advising us and they're giving us a lot of information. And there's going to be funding sources from them. And we've just started it. We've had about 4 meetings. They're monthly meetings with them. And 2 of us, myself and Liz, are on the Canopy Council. And they're really helping us to provide information, provide avenues for us to, to look at and funding sources. So I feel like this is going to be a great year as far as what we can do with the tree commission. Now we have a new tree warden. So that seems to be a very positive thing as well.
Thank you.
Great.
All righty, and we have a question from Councilman Trombley.
Thank you. On the annual report, I read it and it said that there was such a thing as a significant tree and historic tree. So my question is, what is the difference between a significant tree and a historic tree? And what significance does that designation convey under our local ordinances or state law? Can you enlighten me, my friend?
Sure. So the significant tree is a tree that's 30 inches or bigger DBH, that's diameter at breast height. And we're trying to save them. And we tried to have a significant tree program, but it didn't really fly in town because, it was trying to have people ask permission to cut their significant trees down. So what we came up with as an alternative for now is a voluntary program. So people submit their big trees and then we examine them and there's a application program and those trees go on their deed. So those trees cannot be cut down ever unless there's some criterion, like someone's going to add a garage, add a new driveway, build a pool, or of course, if it's hazardous. So we're saving them, but it's a voluntary program. The historical trees are we've been researching, we found a few trees that were brought here, in the late 1700s by descendants of Admiral Perry. And we're researching it to see where they are in town. And we found 2 of them so far. We're going to keep looking for them. So, and we're going to try to publicize them. So in case somebody has a historical tree on their property, if they know some story about it, we're going to put it on the website. And so it's 2 different programs.
What are the
Thank
2
you.
historic trees?
Excuse me?
Where are those 2 trees?
So one is in front of the Lopes House on Main Street. It's a Japanese scholar tree.
Mhm.
It was brought here, well, some people say it's descendants of the Admiral Perry expedition to Japan, but other people are saying it's from George Rogers Hall, who was a horticulturalist in Bristol, and he also went to Japan and brought trees here. The second one is at the what we call the Eamon J. Meal House, the Big U. That was brought here as well as part of that scenario.
That's what I thought. I thought the second one.
Just a
There we
quick
go.
question on that deed restricted. So if a homeowner gives that restriction, they die or they sell a house, who can release that restriction?
Only the
No
town,
one.
because the town holds it, right?
Really? Act of God. But I mean, you just said if you.
What happens if buying purchaser, buying subject to because it's recorded.
So they'll
So
know.
they understand going in that there's a tree on there that's been restricted by seller.
Mm.
And it goes subsequent, to the, time when it's on. So that's something that goes on, that difficulty runs into this, not a difficulty, but if some, a type of disease, gets onto the tree, then it needs to be cut down for, health or safety,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. Sometimes two trees die.
Oh, yeah, but you had mentioned something, if somebody wanted to build a garage or something but that's not the case.
That is the case. Yeah, we, you know, if they have a plan to put, annex the house, put in a garage, put in a driveway. So that's a good enough reason to say the tree has to come down.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that it's a binding condition, but it is not an absolute condition.
I believe when we I remember when we passed that ordinance, it has to be, they have to come up with a plan and it has to be, I think it's the tree commission that reviews it. And as long as there's nothing else, if there's no other way to do it, then they get the relief. If there is another way to do it and they're just trying to circumvent around it saying, oh, I don't want to put the addition over there. I want to put it over there so I can cut down the tree. So it has to go before the tree commission and be approved to get that variance or whatever it would
That's
be.
correct, yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to seeing what the tree commission is able to do with these two designations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Before we move on to new business, can I have a motion to send a letter of thanks to Brant Heckert in acknowledgement of his work on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Directors, from which he resigned.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I also pull C1?
Okay.
Thank you. And question on the annual reports generally for perhaps Town Manager Sullivan. I read all of the reports and some of them are very different from each other. Is there a standardized format for how annual reports should look? And if not, can we look into potentially doing something like that so that it's more informative for the council?
I think it's, sorry to
Oh, it's-
interrupt, I think it's based on what the mission, the task, the work of that board or commission is. Wouldn't be appropriate probably, or wouldn't be realistic to have each board follow the exact same form. But yeah, review of what they're producing, if it's not giving us the information we need, is
Mhm.
worthy.
Yeah, I agree. I spoke to the clerk's office, and they echoed what you just said, that there is no form, but it might be very difficult because, as you said, the mission might not fit every commission, and therefore it might not be fluid. So
Okay, I understand. Thank you. And then are there any boards and commissions that have not submitted an annual report yet?
So I've been told that the Economic Development Board has not submitted a report, and Parks and Recreation.
Okay. Thanks.
And seeing as we're asked, are you done?
No, I was gonna go on to C1, but if these are kind of more on general.
Yeah, general question. When do we get the attendance reports from?
I'm gonna be here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Continue.
No, not a problem. That was an excellent question. So on C1, I wonder, is there anyone from BICWA here that could answer the question or potentially, no?
From Bristol County Water?
Yes, sorry.
I don't believe there's anyone here, but I did reach out to the Executive Director, Stephen Kuchu.
Well, in the report, it says that about 1,300 customers in their jurisdiction may have lead, galvanized steel, iron, or other unknown material. I was wondering how many are located in Warren. If so, are they generally located in the downtown area, or is it spread out evenly throughout the town?
So speaking with Mr. Kuchu, he stated that about 331 of the 1,300 letters went out to Warren residents. He believes that most of them may be in the downtown area, only because lead pipe and galvanized pipe were used in construction up until mid-50s, say. therefore. But he did think that, most of it would be probably galvanized steel and not lead, but residents can reach out to Bristol County Water and they can go and check. He said they would have to go into the pit where the water meter is in your house and be able to check to see if that is either lead or galvanized steel.
All right, thank you so much. Those were my questions.
Thank you. We're good?
Good.
All right. Moving on to new business. Councilman Rigo pretty much owns new business. We will start with number 1, which is discussion and action to have the solicitor produce maintenance easements for Market Street. Councilman Rigo, please.
So when I was questioning the people who are interested in the planning position, I agreed 100% with the affordable housing, but another issue that Warren faces is drainage. And in talking to Brian Wheeler, drainage is not just a simple thing of going into a creek and cleaning it up. You need CRMC permits, correct, Ryan?
Yeah.
Right. And in order to get that, you need to have a maintenance easement on the properties. So I went out and I spoke to the people that own those properties, and they were all very receptive and very agreeable to put together maintenance agreements. So I would make a motion that Tony start on those maintenance agreements. So I got 4 of them, and basically they're the ones behind Redmond Street and the one on Market Street. I can give you the names.
Drafting the easement. The key to an easement, however, is the description of the easement area. So if your motion could include that the solicitor will work with the DPW director to ensure that the easement area is properly noted in the easement, I'd appreciate that.
So if I say so moved, it would be pretty much what you just said, correct?
Say I'll make that in form of.
I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that in the form of a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Next, we have discussion and action regarding the repair of Jamiel's Park driveway. Councilman
So
Rigo.
when I went to look at the creek, I noticed that there was a lot of divots in that J Mills Park. So I figured, you know what, when you see something, you should report it. So I'm making a motion directing the highway department to repair the driveway.
How much of it is there? Is it
I don't
a
think-
big cost?
No, I'm not looking at something. I'm looking at something where if you could drop a bucket and maybe regrade
Grade it or whatever.
it. I'm not looking for you to rebuild the driveway, not at all.
No, I think too, I mean, there's a couple options out there. To get it through the winter, we'll just fill the potholes. We have some more long-term things that we can't really do it until the spring. In order to do rough estimates of about 2 inches of new material throughout the entire area of J Mills Park roadway, it'd be about $4,500. So it's not a huge dip in the bucket when it comes to maintenance over there. So it's just time and effort. So we will we have material for the holes currently. We'll take care of those.
And that's all I'm looking for. I mean, I have a truck and I had a hard time maneuvering through there, so that shouldn't be the case. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion to direct the DPW to do some repairs on Jamiel's Park driveway. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so when I went to speak to one of the people that owned the property abutting the J Mills Park where we needed the easement, actually it was Kerry from Crossroad Pub. She said, Lou, can you do me a favor? I says, what? She was looking for a crosswalk from her parking lot to her building. And it is an area that's that a crosswalk is needed. A lot of people cross that area, and it's, you know, crosswalk is not only for people that crosswalk, it also gives the driver the signal that you should be slowing down in that area. Also, when I was looking at Market Street, and I looked up a little farther, Market Street Pub, identical situation where they have a parking lot across the street, and a lot of people crossing that area all the time. So I thought it would be a good idea to put that on there. And then the traffic light on, and then also at the top of Miller Street, that's missing a crosswalk. But the one that's the most important on here is the one that's on Main and Market Street where the light is. We have an issue there where the issue with that crosswalk where they have stop on red, and before we used to churn and now we no longer churn, is the crosswalk is actually behind the building. So you can't really see the crosswalk. So we have a choice. We can move the building or we can move the crosswalk closer. So I'm thinking that if we move the crosswalk closer, someone that's driving up on Market Street would be able to see the pedestrians that's going to cross the crosswalk. And I made copies if you wanted to see the way it is now.
Should we probably give that to the traffic commission first?
Yes, and this is all gonna have to go in a list of sort of prioritized requests to be delivered to RIDOT for their consideration, because it's not, these are state streets.
Right, right. And, you know, and I spoke to the chief about this, and one of his concerns, and that would be the fire chief. One of the concerns is there would be a lot of crosswalks. But if you go down Main Street, you see a lot of crosswalks too. So, and again, this is a business. These are businesses that they're always there for the community. And I think that we should honor what they say. As far as the top of Market and Main Street, where I talked about that moving over that crosswalk, I did speak to the two chiefs, and I think they both agreed it was a good idea. Now, is this something that has to go to the traffic commission, or do we send it to the state? I don't see a need where you're gonna have to send these things to the traffic commission.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
To the solicitor, when we establish new crosswalks, they have to meet ADA guidelines, I presume. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that would that mandate any cutting of curbs in this area? I mean, I know the area, but I'm not photographic, so
I have pictures if you need to see it, and that is an issue as far as you would have to cut a curb for the ADA. That would be the only issue.
It is an issue, and as you'll see, as you keep sitting at these meetings, one of the things that I like to do is refer as many matters to the traffic commission as I possibly can. But in this instance, because you're dealing with all state roads here, I'm thinking that you just add this on and send it out directly to the state on this, because ultimately they're going to have to make that determination, including whether or not it's ADA compliant.
Right.
And what needs to be done for that. So I think what needs to be done here, if you want to consider this, is to forward this to the State Traffic Commission, actually, as in the form of a resolution. That's what the motion should be. That's what the State Traffic Commission is going to need to do. They are going to have to do it anyway, notwithstanding whatever our own traffic commission does. So I think that's what's warranted here, if in fact the council wants to go forward with this proposal.
May I make a suggestion, though? As far as the clean sidewalks, I think that might be appropriate to refer to the Juvenile Hearing Board as a potential community service opportunity for those. No?
Yeah, no, so I put this on there, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't think that the states are gonna do it. This is my first shot, and we're gonna have our representatives come in here on the 3rd, and I figured, let's give it a shot. The worst they can say is no, but I'm actually lining this up because if they don't say it, we need to budget to have our sidewalks clean. These sidewalks are, we spent so much money fixing these sidewalks, and it just looks horrible. And then, it's not only ugly, when you have all these weeds and these weeds break off, where do they go into? The catch basins. Then we have drainage issues. It just doesn't end. So that's why I wanted to put it on there, and we'll see where it goes, but I do want to refer it to the state. Costs nothing to ask.
I'll second that motion to refer to the state's traffic commission.
State Traffic Commission.
All four items, correct?
All 4 items. And that would be in the form of a resolution.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Finally, we have discussion and action to have the downtown lamp posts repaired and painted as needed. So it is Councilman Rigo's understanding, and are we correct that the town is responsible for the lampposts along Main Street and Water Street?
Before you say anything, the reason why I wanted to put it on right away is because I saw they were crooked. They need to be done. But the second reason is we're gonna be taking on Christmas lights soon. You're gonna have the boom truck. I figured it would be a good opportunity that if you're up there and you have the ability to fix at least what's crooked, I don't expect you to paint it. This would be the time to do it.
Yep, no, and so, looking at some of them we can adjust ourselves, others we're gonna have to kind of go with our contractor. Unfortunately, we have lights that are very expensive. Those decorative street lights, just rough estimate, so to fix one light fixture last year was $1,650 for just the light fixture itself when it was broken. So when those pieces start actually breaking and they're no longer just bent, then it's calling in O'Brien. So what we can do is start building an inventory of which ones are actually going to need to be replaced in the future, and the ones that we can fix, we'll fix and paint and kind of keep them alive the best we can. But I do think, and we've kind of spoke about this in previous years too, is getting that part-time help in the summer to help maintain the poles themselves and paint them, because it's time consuming. It's a lot of effort, and everything on those poles is expensive.
Right.
So the more we can do it in-house, the cheaper it'll be, but certain parts of that we can't do. So
When I talk about sidewalks and lampposts, I remember years ago, we worked very, very hard to get these sidewalks in. We worked very, very hard to get these lampposts. And so when I see the condition they're in, I feel it personally. So that's why I'm addressing these issues.
fortunately, a lot of the lampposts, if we had put them back like a foot and a half further back, they would have been perfectly placed. But they are perfectly placed for buses and trucks to hit them.
Then they would have been obstructing the safe
know,
passage
I
on
know.
Speaking of
sidewalks.
lights, I don't know if you got to it yet, but there's one right outside the parking lot over here that's
Yeah,
like a,
we're waiting.
like a strobe light.
We have a call into our electrician
Okay.
but there's numerous lights that need to be adjusted, so. But we are tracking it 100%. I wanted to make sure you had the numbers, because it kind of blew my mind when I first got the numbers on the cost of those.
And let me just say this, the second reason is, Brian, some of these things cost money, and I know, so we're coming at budget time. So if these are things that you need to put in the budget, this is the time to address it. So.
Yeah, so probably the motion would be to have an inventory of the condition report on all of the lamps and the lampposts downtown, so we know what we're dealing with, and then we can kind of put it into a budget.
Yeah, I mean, I'll stop building it out in the budget.
Okay.
I'd like to keep my motion the way I have it written, and that's the lamppost repairs and painted as needed. You go at your pace, you do what you need to do, but at the end of the day, I just want them fixed.
Would it be all right with the councilman if I were to amend to additionally request that the DPW director report back at the next meeting on sort of an inventory of which ones he deems as top priority?
Again, I just want them fixed. It doesn't really matter how you do it.
I got you.
But you know what? I don't see it in here. There was one other thing that I had on here, and that was for the state to fix
Right
the
here.
traffic light.
Yeah,
That was in the previous motion.
Yeah,
Okay, so about 7 years ago, that traffic light, the base, maybe it could have been 10 years ago, somebody hit it and nobody ever fixed that base. And for some reason, and to me, that's a liability. Somebody could trip on that base. That's the bottom of the light. You know what I'm talking about?
Sam Miller.
At Miller, yeah. So again, this is a given direction for the state to fix it and paint that.
all righty. So we have a motion as written on number 4 for the lamppost to be repaired and painted as needed by Councilman Rigo. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion pass. Next, we have Town Manager TM1. Discussion and action regarding the new State Transportation Improvement Program, otherwise known as STIP.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. So as you can see from the letter that the Rhode Island Department of Statewide Planning is putting together the STIP program, which is the State Transportation Improvement Program. And they are putting this together for federal fiscal year of 26 to 2026 to 2035. And part of that program is or part of the letter that they sent is they wanted to inform municipal leaders that this is going to take place. And that they were going to be soliciting, there'll be a period of solicitation of projects that each community feels need to be done. And that will open in February for 3 or 4 weeks. One of the important parts was they wanted us to name someone as a point of contact. I've spoken to Brian Wheeler, and Brian Wheeler will be the point of contact for Warren. And they'll be establishing email contact and information on when this opens up and what projects Warren wants to put into the STIP plan. In addition, they had this given us an opportunity to reassess projects that are already a part of previous STIP plans. And I did include a section or last page with the projects that currently on the STIP plan for Warren. Route 114 and Main Street, which is repaving from Water Street to Wheaton Street. That STIP year is 2029. Route 136, Metacom Avenue from the Bristol Town Line to Everett Street. And then Arlington Avenue, Metacom Avenue to Kickamute Road and Vernon Street. That is also pavement, and it says safety, which I'm not familiar with all of the, and I'm sure Brian can help me out with that if he knows. And then 136 Market Street, and then Route 114 to Schoolhouse Road and Kickamute Road, Everett Street, and to Market Street. Again, that's paving. So, and that STIP plan year was 2025. So we're in 2025 right now. So I don't know if you have any more information, Brian. Okay.
Councilman Rigo?
So last month, Joe had put in a motion for the 136 project, which was to include sidewalks all the way from not Main Street, I think, the bike path all the way up to Route 6. That has nothing to do with this. They haven't seen that yet, have they? Or do you know what they have?
136 from the bike path.
Yeah. Market Street.
That's not 136.
Oh, no? What is it?
136 is Metacom. 136 doesn't go near the bike path.
What's Market Street? What route is that?
That turns into 136, but up near Mallett's.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, from the bike path.
So,
Up Market, basically, let's call it Market, let's forget the numbers.
Market Street from the bike path
Right.
to Mallett's
Right.
area.
That was on the docket for 2022. It was on the docket for 5 years, and then Bob Ruley somehow, when he put in the market to Metacom, the state took it off.
Because of that market to Metacom
Right.
included raising and doing a whole bunch of work on that, yeah.
So we don't know where that sits at this point.
The last thing that Steve said about that section, and we still have to kind of meet with them again, was under a study. They have a grant to study that particular section. The only part of Market Street that's going to be repaved is from Schoolhouse to the state line.
All right, again.
Which is completely, it's just a different section.
Right, I guess that would be an argument for a different day, but I guess my other question is Main Street, the sidewalk project, that's still on?
That is on, we just had a meeting on it today. We will provide an update to the council in February. And we'll be asking for some feedback as well in February so we can bring it back to DOT. But that project is scheduled, I believe they kind of told us tentatively for August timeframe, August, September to start breaking ground.
Brian, do you know what safety HSIP stands for?
Which one is this?
So kind of like lumped together, to be honest with
It
you.
looks, they're all, it seems like they're all intersections.
Yeah.
Libby Lane, Metacom and Arlington. Could that be like the lights, fixing the lights or the?
Yeah, last time I saw that, they were talking about that payment, but probably has to do with their signal.
okay. highway safety improvement plan.
It's probably gonna be like the timing of all the signals and
Okay.
crosswalks that are not currently timed.
The other thing, I think when our representatives come in, this is probably an issue that we might want to push for them to get on board with, for us to get these things done. Because as far as I'm concerned, all these sidewalks, they're liabilities.
So given the period going to February where they're accepting you've
Yep,
given there's
Mid-February, yes.
yeah, mid-February, can we put that back in there? Let's get Market Street from Main Street to Malik's to that's
Sure.
we've
yeah,
been
absolutely.
trying to get that roadway, the repaved, get some sidewalk work done for as long as I've been on the council and apparently for as long as Lou was on the council prior to now. So it's a problem. And yes, it's highly traveled. It's vulnerable to all of the climate issues we're having, but it's still a main route
Mm.
in and out of town. And we learned last night, it's not even being considered in the conversation for safe routes out of town.
Right.
That's Child Street, but
South Street, yeah,
still, it's where people go. So
sure.
let's remind the state in most loud terms that we're waiting and
That's
that's
one
important
of
to
our,
us.
and if I could just point out to you, and if you look at STIP number, ID number 1419, and the top one there, it says pavement pave 193, Market Street from 114 to 136. So I think that would be the area we're talking about.
Yeah, so I don't know why they would do from the top of Market Street to the bike path, because that's already been done. I think it's from the bike path on that needs to be done.
Well, you're right, Brian, that 114 to Route 136 would be Market Street from Maine to Metacom, which would be that stretch you're talking about.
Yeah,
And that's in the
Seems to
20,
skip a lot when they
that's
actually
in,
put the plans in place.
Yeah, 2025. So I think it'll be important once this opportunity, once Brian gets notified
Yeah.
from
that never really did get taken off the agenda. It's still there.
Let me just say this. In 2017, I talked to Bob Rulli about this, and he said it was already planned. And I said, 5 years from now, I'm gonna be 60, and I'm 63 now. And so the work must have been done on that. A lot of the work, because in 2017, they already had it earmarked for 2022. And then in 2022, when we came up with this comprehensive plan, is when the state put a stop to it. And I got paperwork from the state, so.
All right, so we have agreed, we've motioned and approved the.
Proposed STIP projects.
Yes. Did we have a motion and a second?
I believe you wanted us to report back at the February meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's
Because
do
that's
that.
when this would be, we might have more information
Okay.
at that time.
Number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding a memorandum of understanding between the Warren Police Department and Rhode Island Department of Public Safety concerning statewide computer-aided dispatch and records management system. Mr. Sullivan.
So this records management system is a 10-year project that's been going on. It's been involving the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association, Rhode Island Fire Chiefs Association. Currently, each individual police department has their own records management system. It's called IMC TriTech Technologies, which was created and designed in the 1990s, and it has not kept up pace with changes in technology. So there are issues with this IMC TriTech software. The idea was that the state of Rhode Island is so small, they would be able to share one robust records management system. There was a state law that was passed in 2021 that put this under the umbrella of the Rhode Island State Police Department of Public Safety. And that's the reason why the agreement is from the Department of Public Safety. There was input from all stakeholders involved, police, fire, the court system, other state agencies that currently we're not able, well, not we, the police department, fire department is not able to communicate with. And they would be included in this statewide records management system. So there'll be other state agencies. I'll give you one example that I'm aware of is that we have what's called a domestic violence sexual assault report that goes to its records, that goes to the courthouse, goes to the Superior Court. They keep track of domestic violence calls, incidents, arrests in the state. Currently, it cannot be transmitted electronically. It has to be photocopied and taken down to their or mailed physically to this office. One of the abilities of this program would be that it could be sent electronically. So the information would be, sometimes the information doesn't get there and the stats might not be accurate. So that information can be transmitted electronically right to that agency, and they would have up to the date information that they can use to report out. As I said, it's a more modern, robust system that'll meet the current and future needs of the criminal justice system here in Rhode Island. It'll be user-friendly. The sharing of information between law enforcement agencies and other state agencies would be greatly enhanced. Currently, it's very difficult to share information. There is a ability to what's called interagency. You can check interagency, but you can only see if somebody has had contact with the police department. You can't find out what kind of contact that was involving. If you remember, you may not, but several years ago, there was an incident in Westerly where a gentleman purchased a handgun. He had an incident at a housing authority in Westerly, went to another town, purchased a handgun, was able to purchase the handgun, went back to Westerly and committed homicide. 2 people were killed because of that. One of the police departments involved had contact with him, had some issues, mental health issues, some concerns, but they couldn't see that. There was no communication because the systems were in their own little silos. You weren't able to get that information. So this would be able to better communicate between law enforcement agencies and other state agencies. Attorney General's office would be able to send information there. To the courts, you'd be able to send information to the courts as well. The current system that we have, that data would be converted over into this new system. So all of the records that we have right now, depending on how long, could be a 10-year stretch that you could convert all of that information into this new system. So you wouldn't lose any information, vital information that would still be available to you. Warren is scheduled to be in what is called phase 2 of this project. This first phase involves several police departments throughout the state. They have got it into phase 1, 2, and I believe it's phase 3. There'll be three phases, maybe 4, but they're trying to group the agencies together. So Warren and Bristol would be in the same phase as well as Tiverton, so that it's easier to work together on maybe the bugs that might be in the system. It's believed that it would take about 2 to 3 months to get people trained, get the data conversion, and the software set up in the police department and the fire department. That it would probably go online live in January of 2026. They're looking to, in September of 2025, to start implementing the implementing process here in Warren. And like I said, it would take 2 to 3 months training. Everyone who uses the system, which is used by all of the police officers, all of the dispatchers, civilian staff who might be involved in records management would be trained. The fire chief, the fire marshal, and the staff in the fire chief's office would also have to be trained on a limited basis. So that training would take place. It's reported that it's probably about an 8-hour training, classroom training going in. And then the project would be run by the IT coordinator at the police department. That is the person who would oversee the implementation here, along with one of the senior staff members of the police department would also be involved as well.
Are you finished with your
Uh,
sales
yeah.
job? I'm buying.
I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Yes.
The two questions I have, number one, is there a cost to the town? And number two, has the solicitor reviewed the memo of understanding?
So the solicitor has reviewed the memorandum of understanding. Yes, he has. And do you want me to speak for you or? Okay.
I have to say, of course, everything Brian said is correct. And to me, in talking to Chief Borges, this is something that you really need. This is to keep Warren up to date with its law enforcement activities. I'm not entirely happy with the MOU. It's slanted in the favor of the state. The state's indemnified for anything that happens here in Warren. Warren doesn't have that. It's a 5-year agreement. The state can terminate it at any time. Town can't. Those are the type of provisions I usually flag for you to know over the years. However, this is a statewide program. It's something that I think that if the town doesn't get involved in the handicap, your law enforcement activities, I think you really need to do that.
How about the cost?
So yes, there is cost. So the cost would be for this, not this current fiscal year, but the upcoming fiscal year would be $17,346.15. So that's 6 months worth of using the system.
But would we be saving any money by not using the old system?
Not this upcoming fiscal year, because we need to use the
Oh,
old
to
system
swap
for
it
6
over.
months
Yeah.
until we get up and running on
Okay.
the old system. So it would be fiscal year 27
Yeah.
is when we would
Be able to get
we
rid of
would
the
be able
old
to
system.
swap the cost from
Okay.
one system to this one. And fiscal year 27 would be $692.30. Currently, the chief informs me that we're paying about just under $23,000 a year for our maintenance of this old system. So there will be an increase, but not a big increase. But I think the payout would be tremendous based on that.
Two things, would the rescue squad use this?
I'm sorry?
The rescue squad, would they be using this information or?
It's the, as far as, yes, they would feed their reports for their patient care.
Right.
reports.
Hmm.
It's the dispatch side of the dispatch, the numbers, the address, the times. All that.
Hmm. I think the biggest thing that you left out that we don't have now, that this is cloud-based versus what you have now, that you're not really a way of backing it up, correct?
Yeah, so the system that we have right now is backed up on a server that is currently stored at the police station. It's there. And eventually that server would go away. I mean, we would have to hold on to it for a little bit because we'd have still, records from how about 20, 30 years that whatever, however long you've had the system, those records would still be on that server that you would be able to pull up if you needed to get them. Because we would still have that ability to do that. It's our system and it's housed at the police station. So that's one thing. We wouldn't have to have our own server. We wouldn't have to have so they call switches, which connect other software to the current software that we're using. We wouldn't have to have those because it would be all included in the cloud and in this program. So-
Do you have someone that maintains the program that we have now, and is there a cost associated to that? And what is that cost? Is that included in the 23,000?
No, that's not included in the 23,000.
Yeah.
23,000 that we pay right now for IMC TriTech is just for them to assist us if there's an issue with the program, we can't find data or we need to do something. That's just just a maintenance agreement with them,
The
with
23
the company.
Right, the 23,000 is.
The 23,000. And then we currently have IT person on staff, which we pay to monitor the system to make sure that there's firewalls up and
Right,
things
and what's
like
the
that.
cost of that, more or less?
Oh, we have a budget, 50,000 a year.
Ooh,
Here comes in once a week.
we don't spend 50,000 on that. Really?
Just the first year.
So if that's the case, then we're at 35. We're saving a lot of money.
I'm sorry?
So if we're gonna be spending 35, the difference between the 23 and the 35, and if there's any cost to do any maintenance, we're almost there.
We still need a good person.
For this system here?
For the computer, the person does more than just this system.
Oh, okay. I thought it was specific to that system. Is that the same computer person that we have for the town?
No.
No.
That's a separate computer person. Okay.
All right, and Councilman Trombley?
Yes. I have 4 questions. First, for the solicitor, just to clarify, my reading of the MOU was that it essentially functions as an 8-year contract with an exit clause after 4 years. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yeah.
I thought I heard you mention 5 years, which is why I was confused. Okay, that's all right, just so that we have. I understand, thank you. For the manager, in reading the contract, it states that Warren is responsible for the cost to establish and connect with the system, including training, technical support. What is that estimated cost?
So I don't have an estimated cost for the training. It's about, we were told it's 8 hours of training.
Mhm.
Now, would we be able to do that without using overtime, but during a working day? But there may be some overtime costs because obviously people from the midnight shift and the night shift would have to come in during the time that your training is taking place. So there would be some overtimes. I don't have a cost estimate for that.
I understand. Would we need to purchase any new equipment in addition to what we have to pay the state for this program?
So I'm told the only equipment that we'll have to purchase is currently the equipment that we currently use, desktops, mobiles for the police cars, fire truck, printers and things like that.
We would have to purchase all new.
No.
No, we could still use what we have.
Just the upkeep with what we have, right?
Just regular maintenance. I
Yes.
understand. Thank you. The contract also mentions that Warren's responsible for the cost of maintaining the legacy records.
Yeah.
And I was curious what the retention policy of the police department currently is in terms of.
So the retention policy for police records varies. It varies from 3 years to 5 years. And there are some 10 years, and there's also some that you can never get rid of. Homicides, unexplained deaths, things like that. So the retention period varies. Again, a lot of this information, if we convert from 10 years ago to this new system, we would have access to it. But in addition, we would still have the old system running in the police station where we wouldn't be paying any maintenance agreement for anyone, but we would still have the ability to have the server where all of that information is on and, desktops that connect to that server to be able to pull up that information.
Thank you. In addition, in the contract, it says that Warren PD has to meet CJIS and RILETS policies.
Yes.
Can you elaborate, or can perhaps the chief elaborate on what are those policies?
So CJIS is the Criminal Justice Information Services that's run by the FBI.
Mhm.
So the FBI establishes rules that police departments throughout the country have to abide by in order to have access to the information that is held by the FBI. And so that is, stringent security, making sure that people who have access to it know the rules, know what they can and can't do with that information, and things like that. Make sure you have a firewall so that no one can get into the system and then get back to the FBI. So that's what CJIS is. and RILETS, which is the Rhode Island Law Enforcement Telecommunication System, is similar to that. Every person who has access to the RILET system has to go through training. They have to take a test, and they have to do it, I believe it's every 3 years, 3 years. If someone leaves a police agency, the police agency has to notify the state police, take them off so they don't have access to this anymore. And so those are the regulations that the state and the federal government requires each police department to follow in order to be able to have access to sensitive information.
Thank you. And last question, perhaps for Mr. Burlingham. Does Warren have the financial resources to afford to enter into this contract?
We won't know the exact answer to that until we get the budget. But I'm pretty confident here.
Oh, it's an honest answer. Thank you.
All right, me last, and I was gonna ask about where will our budget support entering into this memorandum of understanding? My real question was, so the 34,692 annual cost for this new program is, you said we were probably in the same phase as Bristol. Is their cost the same, or is it based on population or police department size, or how
Yeah,
is that number arrived at?
You're correct. It's based on police department size, user size. So the
Okay.
more users you have to the system, the more costly it is.
Okay.
So I don't know what Bristol's is, but I would imagine that theirs is higher than our cost.
Okay. All right. So I guess we are looking, if the council is comfortable with this, for a motion to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Warren Police Department and the Rhode Island Department of Public Safety concerning statewide to acquire the statewide computer-aided dispatch and records management system.
I will put that in the form of a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I suppose this will come back to us at budget time to ensure that we're not,
Well, we're gonna have to budget it, 'cause
Yeah.
it's gonna be next fiscal year.
all right.
Next fiscal year?
The recurring will be next
Yeah.
fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah, this coming up fiscal year would be 17,000.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the subsequent years, but we will have, it'll just be a little jump.
Cross that
Just a little
bridge.
jump. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Number 3 is update on housing stock survey project.
Yes, so I was contacted by Susan Marr from Weston and Sampson. And they had been contracted to do a housing stock study for the town of Warren. I'm not sure when that took place, but it's been a while, I believe. And they would like to do a presentation to the town council on the results of this study that they did. And they would like to do that at the February meeting. Yes.
On a little side note,
Mhm.
may not be attending next meeting because will be at the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. My flight's supposed to come back
Are you planning on coming back?
late Tuesday afternoon, but it is New Orleans.
All right, thanks for letting us know.
Do we need to take any action on that?
I don't think there's any action. I just wanted to bring that to your attention that we could place that on the February calendar unless you objected.
And finally, discussion and action regarding the request to advertise for auditing services.
So this year, this current fiscal year that ends June 30 is the last year of our current contract with our current auditor. It was for 3 years. And so I would like to get permission to advertise, go out to bid for auditing services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Solicitor, discussion and action on claim from Bataro Law Firm LLC on behalf of claimants Michael Fleming, Elise Montero, and Maya Montero.
So what you have before you is the statutory notice of a claim under 45 15-9 and -10. And there is no monetary amount affixed to this because it's in the preliminary stages. The matter has already been referred over to the Interlocal Risk Management Trust. You need to deny the claim and refer it to the trust so that they can handle this matter going forward.
Make a motion to deny and refer to the trust.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we have the Traffic Commission. An update on the previous meetings, suggestions that I had.
Yes, so the Traffic Commission did meet on January 6th this year. At that meeting, we discussed, there was a letter that was sent to the State Traffic Commission on a previous request for a stop sign at the intersection of Vernon Street and Warren Boulevard. We also had a discussion on the Company Street, making Company Street a one-way. It was at first, we weren't sure which direction this one-way should be established. And after some further discussion, it was decided that we would recommend that the one-way be coming in from Water Street, going towards
The river.
Westminster, towards the river, correct, yes.
Which is the opposite of what I had in mind, but in conversation with Chief Souza, he helped me understand why that would be the more appropriate and reasonable way to make the traffic flow if it were to be one way. My suggestion would be that we do some sort of outreach to that small area to get some feedback, whether people are really interested in doing that or whether that would just blow people's minds
Sure,
right away.
okay,
So I would be interested in hearing from the neighborhood.
yeah, that makes
Um,
perfect sense.
Great.
We did it years ago and then we changed it back. I don't remember. Maybe Roy remembers. You were a kid back then. It was a long time ago.
We'll
Okay.
take care of that, yes.
All right.
We did discuss Union Street, one way. There is some concern with the emergency vehicle using that. If we made it a one-way coming towards the rescue ambulance station, they would have to go down the one-way. Sometimes they would have to go down the one-way in responding to calls. And there was a discussion that might be frowned upon by our insurance carrier. So that's where we ended up with that.
Okay.
We talked about the installation of parking spots on the streets in the waterfront area. And actually Brian did do a count on the number of spots that are being taken right now, or the number of vehicles parked on there, and have an idea of what would happen if we did put lines in, how many we would lose and things like that.
A quick example, State Street has 28 available spots if we do it by all of the correct laws. And currently there was 26 cars parked there today. Not all where they would fall in a perfect 18-foot box, but we have to be careful with how we work on that, because some of the laws that we have are kind of limiting. So it'll actually take away more. Where we see 15 feet from every corner, some of the laws say 30 feet from stop signs. Some say 20 feet from intersections that have crosswalks, and that's between the state law and ours. It just mimics the same. So it's just about being careful how we read it and where we're doing it. Because right now people are taking advantage of no lines and everything. So if we start going through every single road, putting in the lines, we're going to actually start pulling back some more parking spaces. And given that we already have a parking issue, it might be something we might want to just kind of do street by street, kind of looking at if it makes sense on one, maybe Miller Street, maybe some of these streets make sense and others might not.
Mhm.
So it might be something we have to keep studying street by street. obviously it's been super cold, so I haven't got to all the streets yet. And we've been kind of dealing with some other issues throughout town right now, but I will continue to look at it and kind of go street by street, looking at which ones would make sense, and hopefully before the spring, provide a report of where I think, and, I'll talk it over with the chiefs is, and see what they think, but it's just, I don't want to get too nitty-gritty by the book, but I also don't want to do something that's going to put us liable. So we start looking at the way it reads in our ordinance, it's like, oh, we weren't looking at 30 feet from a stop sign, but that's what it reads.
Did you
Okay.
say chiefs is? Is that what you said?
chiefs is.
I thought I-
Yeah.
And the other concern is that we need to look into, are there any requirements for ADA that we might have to put in
Yeah.
as well? And then the last thing that we talked about, and that briefly is, we talked about as the last meeting, we talked about the bike path coming from once the broken bridge is repaired. Where would that bike path go? I did, and there was an engineering study that was sent by Mr. Massey to a couple of, maybe, believe everyone got it, maybe. So I did have a conversation with Michael Abruzzi about that. And that engineering study had the bike path going across the property of the housing authority and then up Libby Lane. And I think that was the first time that Mr. Abruzzi saw that. He wasn't aware of it. And he said it can't happen. First of all, it can't take their property away. But the other thing is that a lot of the utilities, underground utilities are in that area. So it would not be possible. I did find some easement records for the utility, the gas line, I believe is a gas line that runs behind some of those houses at the end of Barker Street. I want to go over them with the solicitor because from my reading of it, it says that nothing can be permanently put on that easement. So I would think that pavement for a bike path might fall within that category. I don't know. I don't know.
Right, Anthony?
It is, I'm gonna take a little bit of a deep dive, but that's the way I'm going.
More
I do wanna
structure,
talk
not
about
pavement.
truck.
Yeah. Because we had a couple of those with the sheds on some of the easements down Locust Terrace and over
Yes.
there. We had some sheds over there where the sheds weren't considered permanent because they didn't have foundation, so they could put the sheds on the easement that came up down there.
Sure. But we will continue to have the conversation. And we will bring someone from the planning board in when we do have the conversation about that, as we move forward to try to get some answers on the bike path.
Very good. Thank you. All righty. Finance Director. Revenues and expenditures, and I know we got an updated report
You did.
from you. Can you talk about what?
The reason for that was the column for the current, for the December money, was incorrect. So now it's correct.
Okay,
December came in just about where we expected. The 3-year rolling average of tax collections is 465,000 and change. We came in at 431. It's one of the lowest months of the year for tax collections. But we kind of knew that, we planned for it. We're fine. But the happy note is that funds have started flowing in for the 1 February due date. So that's happening now. We expect about 4.2, 4.3 million in January to take care of that. So we're halfway through the year. We've collected about 58 or 56% of what we expected. And that's normal. A lot of the stuff from the state is front loaded, like the telephone tax all comes early. Plus a lot of people, a number of our taxpayers pay the whole year at the beginning of the year. So
I'm comfortable with where we are financially. We have money in the bank, the bills are paid. I'm not losing any sleep over where we are. The audit. The vast majority of the documents required by our auditors have been posted. There are a couple of things that are kind of a little bit out of our control. We're waiting for the actuaries to provide the OPEB estimate. We don't have that yet. There are a couple of adjusting entries that we need to do. And we're giving our AR and AP a second look, but they'll be done shortly. And hopefully the actuaries will get us stuff. That's it. Questions?
Questions?
Yeah. So we got quite a few line items here that we're only 6 months into the year, and a lot of them over that, 60% that have been expended. So I'm assuming that a lot of these things are going to go over budget. So I would think that next month, hopefully next month, whatever department heads anticipate that it's going to go over, they should let us know, ask for permission for it to go over.
Yeah, I think I think it's a little early to make that assumption, to be honest.
Well, I
don't
think that, I think tipping was did Brian leave? Tipping, I think, might have been at 70%. I'm
That's
assuming
one
that,
of
I would think that's
There
one of
there
them.
are a couple. Yeah.
So I think there's quite a few, and I think that's up to the department heads to make that judgment. I just don't want to see, unless it's an emergency, people come in afterwards and say, oh, I went over. That's not the way the system works. The system works, we have a budget, and if you're gonna go over, it's up to the council to decide either you're gonna shut off the lights or you're gonna keep paying for your electricity, and it's pretty simple. So again, I don't think anyone's gonna give anyone a hard time, but I think we need to anticipate these things prior to. So I would say next
Fair enough.
month that, nobody's gonna give anybody a hard time. We just need to know about it.
Mr. Trombley?
Mr. Burlingham, I was wondering in the next revenue expenditures report for the next month, if you could identify perhaps by highlight or by a note, which of those expenditures are, or revenues are, by contract? In other words, what's the word I'm looking for?
Discretionary.
Discretionary, essentially delineate between the discretionary and the non-discretionary expenditures and revenues that we receive. Is that, do you think you could do that for us?
Things that can be negotiated, is that what you're looking for?
No, things that contracts, we're bound, that number, we can't change that.
Mhm.
He's looking for the ones that we actually can change.
Either by like sort of a highlight or maybe a note, just if that's possible, I'd like to have that additional information or
I'll have to look at
context.
that and talk to the department heads. 'Cause
All right.
I'm not sure about all of them, to be honest.
That's totally fair. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
That it? Thanks.
Thank you. No questions? Okay. Next, we have Public Works Director, discussion and action regarding energy efficiency grant at the Public Works Transfer Station.
Yes, so, a couple months back, if you remember, if I can get my paper out, we had an energy efficiency grant that the town council approved, MOU to go forward with the Department of Energy. It was the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, and we received $97,452.66 in federal funding and an additional $100,000 from Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. With that, our energy efficiency consultant has gone out. We have done a few different things. This project was primarily at the time for the DPW and transfer station. Part of that funding is to support the energy consultants salary for 3 years. And then the remainder was meant to be used at fixing some of the older items that we have at the Public Works, meaning our weatherization, insulating, and changing our HVAC systems. We had gone out to an original company, which I'll just leave it as it is, but they came back at $155,000 and didn't hit any of the questions that we had asked them to hit. And they had a lot of frivolous items in there that just were not for us. So we went back out, asked them to,
find another contractor or we'll do it ourselves. They came back with a new company that came in at $99,542. It's turnkey, it's everything we're looking for. With that funding, we just submitted, and I believe it's going to be coming back to the town manager and myself to just update something in that MOU. We submitted to get the remainder of that funds put over into another building to kind of utilize that funds elsewhere. So we're asking today to go forward with Vision Energy Solutions for the $99,542 to do the energy efficiency upgrades in the DPW and transfer station.
And it costs us nothing.
Yeah, so it's in typical fashion with, all grants, we're gonna pay it up front. They're gonna reimburse us. They are very fast on their reimbursement. This is not a typical 6-month wait. This is, we pay on February 1st. They're giving us the money in 2 weeks. I've spoken with Dave about this. They've been doing it. They're eager to give us the money. They ask us every single month, have you spent the money yet? When can we start this? So they want us to do this project. They want us to start spending and asking. So we have it lined up with our energy consultant that it's submitting basically straight through to them. So we're paying, but getting the submittals right to the Department of Energy office.
What was the total cost again?
99,000 and change, I think.
$99,542.
When I first saw it, I thought it was a little alarming, but like Brian said, prevailing wages kicks in whenever you have any type of federal money coming in. So that really boosts up the cost of everything.
Yeah, and specifically, when the first quote came in at 155, I wasn't happy with what it was asking for and what it was doing. They completely disregarded the transfer station where we have someone working 8 hours a day. So we went back out and said, find someone else, or we just won't do it. Like, if you're not, there's no point in spending $155,000, even if it's grant funded, if it's not accomplishing what we're asking. So with this project, I'm very confident that we're going to get what we're asking for, and we're going to, it's going to prove helpful. At the moment, we have no zones for our heating, and we have propane, so it's very costly. It's very hot. And then in the summertime, we have AC units from 1972, and there's no zones. They just freeze up and they cost a lot of money to run. So this would be replacing that with heat pumps and dual AC mini splits. And they'll be sealing the building so that it's keeping that climate more controlled.
So the 99 will save us.
It will over time. And I think the bigger savings are going to be in the propane side of things and the carbon footprint. There's a lot less of a carbon footprint than from using the propane, which is amazing that we don't get a incentive from Ren Energy, but they don't provide our propane. So that's why they don't give us the money back on it. But we tried.
Mr. Wheeler, in the contract, it says that, or in the quote, I should say, it says that it does not cover the cost of repairing or replacing equipment. Is there any additional equipment outside the scope of this project that you feel would need to be replaced or fixed in order to accommodate this?
I think basically what they're covering there is when we remove the old AC units, we're going to have to put the cinder blocks back up. And when we insulate the ceiling in the transfer station, we're just going to have to patch our ceiling, which is completely fine. We kind of already anticipated that because we have a hole in our ceiling anyways from a previous project that we were leaving for them to come in and insulate. So it's kind of like working hand in hand with the contractor to make sure that we do this. So it was anticipated that they weren't going to cover that.
And then what would the time frame be for when it starts and when it's completed?
As long as everything, once we get the updated MOU with Department of Energy signed off on, once they change the one word, it'll be passed to all of you. Once we order it, it's basically a week to order the materials, a kickoff meeting, and then we'll schedule it for not a 5 below day. So it's fairly quick. They want to get it done. They would prefer to get it done now than waiting until the busy season for everybody kicks off again. So.
Yeah. All right. And then my last question, I think you had mentioned it, but Mr. Birmingham, you feel confident that Warren has the financial resources to afford this investment? All right. That's all my questions, Madam President.
Mr. Hanley, any questions?
No.
You covered it all. So we are looking for a motion to, move forward with the, vision,
I'll make that motion.
contract.
And the amount, $99,542.
Yes.
I will second that motion.
All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
And finally, from Public Works Director, discussion and action regarding emergency boiler repair at Mary V. Quirk.
So last week was a fun week at Mary V. Quirk. We had temperatures of, 48 degrees to 80. So it's warm in there today. We're still working out dialing it into a proper temperature, but it is, they can be in there, and we've worked on a temporary fix to keep it from completely shutting down on us. We have a condensate receiver that is taking all of that steam from the pipes back in, then pumping it back into the system. That is leaking constantly. And we have two quotes. I can provide them to you right now, but one came from Energy One, which is a company we've been using, we've used before for AC installations around town, and then the other is from ATC. ATC came back at almost $20,000, and Energy One came back at about $9,980. So,
And this is to do what, Ryan?
this is to replace the pump and the tank.
What age, when do we get this boiler? What
So
age is the
the-
boiler?
Don't know the exact answer. The boiler is fairly new because they switched from oil to gas.
Yeah,
But the condensate tank is not.
okay,
original.
because that was my sort of, I thought that boiler was quite recent a purchase for us. So it's something that's not working well with it.
a condensate? Is that steam system? Condensate?
No, condensate is the byproduct of the gas question. The water that comes out of the.
Oh. Yeah, so the condensate tank, that was the same question I had, and I said, we have this new boiler, but we didn't do the tank, and I assume it's because of some of the cost that was coming in at the time for the tank. So I mean, $20,000, $10,000, either one's still a lot of money for what seems to be just a tank sitting on the ground that no one's touching. Unfortunately, when it goes, it's not gonna go in the summertime, so it went in the coldest week of the year, and we were struggling to keep it running. And so right now we have a temporary fix that is kind of holding it together, and it's working. We're very proud of it, but we have money in the account. My opinion would be to go with the Energy One quote for $9,980.
What's the difference in these two? As far as, yes, aside
10,000, isn't
aside
it?
from the monetary difference, I mean, the Energy One has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things they say they're gonna do. Oh, and some exclusions, and this one has more stuff or other stuff. How are they different?
So there's not much difference. So I've come to the conclusion that a lot of everything depends on the tank. Some companies consider the tanks to be hazardous materials, others do not. I believe this company did not consider it as a hazardous material tank. It's just the way they do it. I don't know, because we were waiting on a third quote that never got back to us, but they said it was going to be somewhere around the $10,000, $12,000 range. So I don't know why there's such a wide difference. Energy One has they haven't really steered us wrong yet. I mean, neither has ATC, so I'm not sure where the difference is, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's just curious when asking to do the same work, that there would be that variation, and how we decide on one over the other. And I'm not looking to spend more money, obviously. This is less, but the Trombley?
I was going to ask, has the solicitor had an opportunity to review these contracts?
Just now,
Hmm.
the only difference I see, the main difference I see, could be one of the drivers. On the fourth differential, I noticed I'm reviewing this right now.
Hmm.
On the automatic temperature controls of the 1-year warranty.
Hmm.
On this, I didn't see a warranty on Energy One.
I see. Thank you. I did have another question.
Go ahead.
So Mr. Wheeler, obviously this is had a huge impact, especially on the Head Start program. It affected a lot of families in our community. I'm curious what your opinion would be as to going through our public buildings and evaluating our heating and cooling systems, like town hall, police station, and the schools, and just getting a sense of what may need investment or repairs in the next fiscal year or beyond.
Yeah, I mean, so that would be ideal. Part of my wish going forward is to have asset management controls like that, where we can start tracking all of these mechanical items that we have in these buildings and find out how much we're putting into them, because we have a lot of different vendors, but not a lot of ways to tie it to specifically what building is spending. So, other than our budget here, where we see that we have some money left in the account, there's not really an anticipation of what's going to fail. When we start tracking how much we're spending and where we're putting that into specific parts, then we can. We could also hire a company to come in and audit that for us, but everything costs money. So it's about the best way to do it. I'm not an HVAC person. I can look at it and say, that's not right. Like the water in the floor. It's part of this energy efficiency upgrade though is doing that. So that's kind of why we're transitioning now over to town hall next. And then with government center, it's kind of in conjunction with their upgrades that they have potentially on the horizon if that moves forward.
Well, I think it might be worthwhile to explore that opportunity at a future meeting, whether or not that's a smart investment to make in terms of studying that type of needs replacement for our physical plant. Okay.
That's an
Can you please come forward and when we're having questions from the public, if people are watching online and for record keeping, I'd be really great to just.
My background is in HVAC.
Okay, just re-identify yourself for the record.
11 Kennicott.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. There's two types of condensate. One is a byproduct of combustion.
Mhm.
And the second one is a byproduct of steam. If it's a byproduct of steam, that is non-hazardous material. If it's a byproduct of gas consumption, that is hazardous. And that would have a higher course.
Thank you for
Mr.
that.
Wheeler?
Steve.
Steve, thank you.
It is.
Okay, so that should be a lower cost item.
Okay,
Strictly a steel tank with a pump.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rigo?
What is this thing again? This tank?
It's a condensate tank with two pumps attached to it. So in Mary Quirk, there's steam heat. It's generating the steam the whole time. Then that's coming back. Learned a lot about this boiler system. It's actually reading the temperature on the way back, which is kind of controlling the water and how long it's running. And then it's feeding back into the tank, and then it feeds it back into the boiler itself. So it's kind of a system that keeps moving around because you don't want to put cold water back into a hot boiler. So it's taking the warm water that's already there, putting it back in, so you're not heating it as much. It's an efficiency thing. Unfortunately for us, because we're losing.
Is it like a retention tank where it saves the hot water and the steam in there?
Yeah, so that all kind of flushes through the system. It comes back and sits there, and they get pushed back into the boiler when it reaches a certain level. So it's just a big circle, but unfortunately right now it's going in and coming back out the bottom.
I understand, but I'm gonna YouTube it later.
Madam President, may I make a motion?
You may, as long as there are no more questions from the council.
I'd like to make a motion. I think we know how important this building is to our community, to Head Start. I'd like to make a motion to accept the lower bid of, excuse me, let me just pull that up real quick.
9980.
9980 from Energy One. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
This is coming out of the existing maintenance account, correct?
Yes, we have enough in that account.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Because they-
And next, we are hearing from the police chief, discussion and action and approval of mutual aid agreement between the town of Barrington, town of Bristol, city of East Providence, and the town of Warren.
Yes, good evening. So this is the same mutual aid agreement that the council approved last year, which involved Warren, Bristol, and Barrington. East Providence found out about it, so they asked to be part of the agreement. So the only thing that has changed here is we added East Providence. All the agreements and all the details about, basically is we do traffic details and sometimes we can't fill them. So we've made an agreement that Bristol, we would offer the Bristol offices or the Barrington offices or the East Providence office in this case, and vice versa.
Mr. Rego.
Thank you. My only concern, so you're not gonna, the constables that are in Warren, that live in Warren are gonna lose out because of this. That's if they can't make it, then you would go to either Bristol, Barrington. or-
We fill with our people, we have three lists. We have the full-time officers, we have retired officers, and we have constables.
Mhm.
And our details go out to all three of them. And then if that cannot be filled, then we would offer to the other.
And the pay rates depending on the community they're in, correct?
No, it would be us. So what we do is that if Bristol, if we go to Bristol, Bristol will give us the detail.
We go to Bristol, one of our guys goes to Bristol.
They get our rate, my rates.
So if somebody comes to Warren and their rates are higher, we're gonna pay a higher rate?
No, we don't pay them. We give the detail to that community where you're doing the work at,
And they pay them?
and they pay.
Okay.
So it doesn't cost, it doesn't make
Doesn't-
more work for the secretaries. We don't lose money because we're having other departments. So yes.
Mr. Trombley.
So my question would be, is, first to Tony, I'll ask, would the liability of the town be impacted by this agreement whatsoever?
No.
And then my second question would be, would it be okay to request an annual report on this program so we can see how many times our officers were in other communities and vice versa?
I think so. We have a program called the Detail Tracking System. That it'd be easy. I believe it'd be easy to, it doesn't happen that often, but like I explained before, I'd rather have a officer who has arrest powers rather than having a constable at certain events and put them in that situation.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then I would
Thank you.
like a motion to approve this new
I will
mutual aid
make a
agreement.
motion that we approve the mutual aid agreement between the town of Barrington, Bristol, East Providence, and Warren. Basically, this is the same agreement we had with Bristol and Barrington. We're just adding East Providence to the agreement. So I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And finally, we have the Recreation Director, request for updating pricing on the memorial benches.
So this is just the annual request to update pricing for 2025. It's the same program. Just need approval from the council to update the pricing.
Any questions from the council?
It looks like they went up about $100 each.
Pretty straightforward.
Still in pretty high demand.
It slowed down quite a bit, but we still have about 5 a year.
Okay. I'll make a motion to apply the updated rates. That'd be appropriate.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And lastly, finally, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Thank you, everybody.